You're watching 13 WMAZ Law Call, sponsored by Macon Law Firm, Reynolds, Horn, and Servant. Your rights, your calls, live. This is 13 WMAZ Law Call.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Law Call. I'm your host, Morgan Dukes, and with me tonight, I have the one and only Carl Reynolds from Reynolds, Horn, and Servant, and he brought along another colleague from Reynolds, Horn, and Servant, which he'll introduce in just a moment. But first, let me say how you're doing, Carl. It's good to see you.
I'm doing great, Morgan. How are you?
I'm feeling good, good.
This is going to be a good show. I always like Ask Us Anything. Tonight, BJ Savant will be joining me on the show, and he'll probably do most of the heavy lifting, so we'll see.
Well, hello, BJ. It's always good
Morgan.
to see you as
Hope
well.
You're doing well.
Now, listen, Ask Us Anything is also one of my favorite topics, too, because we can really get into a lot of things that people have concerns about. And one of the most recent concerns is this latest uptick of COVID. So I know your offices were open in the past. Are they continuing to remain open, or how are we doing things now? How is business being handled?
Well, you know, Morgan, it's just kind of a moving target. We, as you can see, we're casual tonight. When we first started this remote broadcast, we were casual. As we moved closer and closer to the end of the pandemic, we began to wear ties again and be a little more formal. It seems like now we're going back into the era of the pandemic. Our signs keep changing on the front door. Yeah, we're still seeing clients, and basically our in-office policy is if you come in and you have not been vaccinated, then we request that you wear a mask. If you have been vaccinated, we all wear masks in the common areas and in the halls. But when we get into the conference rooms, then we feel we can be a little bit more free with that. So we don't wear them in our individual meetings in our offices, but we do wear them in the common areas. And as I say, it is a moving target. Our policy keeps changing depending on what's happening. But yes, there is a resurgence of the COVID-19 virus. And we're trying to keep up with that as it occurs.
Okay. And so how does this translate into the courtrooms? Are the courts actually open these days?
BJ, wasn't there a notice just yesterday that the criminal courts had shut down again?
Yeah, Judge Sims here in Bibb County shut the criminal courts down a couple of days ago because I think he was ready to start a criminal trial, and one of the star witnesses had tested positive. He couldn't be there. Then he put another trial on, and one of the jurors got sick. So he canceled them until he's going to look at it again at the end of August for maybe a trial starting back in September. And I think the judge up in Cherokee County or somewhere near Atlanta has also stopped jury trials for the time being.
Now, you know, a lot of ours it puts us in a little bit of a bind in this regard. During the pandemic, because our cases all take a long time, they're mostly complex cases. They involve product liability or medical malpractice, and some of the more serious cases that arise out of automobile collisions take a long time. You can't get to a point in a case where you want to mediate it unless you're ready to try it. I've said that many, many times. You have to investigate it, work it up, then you have to wait on the client to achieve or reach their maximum medical improvement before you can properly evaluate it and talk about settlement or mediation. And if you do that and you mediate a case and it fails, then you always have the final solution, which is to go to a jury trial. Well, and today we had one fail last week. We parted because we couldn't agree on the value of the case. So the solution to that is let a jury decide it. The problem is in state court here, which is where a lot of our cases are pending, they're only doing 6-man juries. Well, both sides have to agree if it's going to be a 6-man jury. And in this instance, the defense bar generally won't agree to that. So we don't have that final leverage of facing the lick log, as we say, and going to a jury trial. That has been a problem with some of our cases. thankfully
Yeah.
not many.
It's been a long time since a lot of people have actually had an opportunity to go to trial in court, I'm sure. I mean, it's been so difficult over the past year. Am I right?
Yes, and it has worked differently on the civil side and the criminal side. Actually, it's worked to the advantage of people who are charged criminally if they're out on bond. I mean, it simply means the state can't bring the cases to trial. On ours, and we have used mediation successfully during this whole time, and with only the one exception I just mentioned, which was just this past week.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we have time to get to one question before we get to break. So this question, I think you may have touched on it a little bit, but it comes from Sean. And his question is, do you foresee another big wave of COVID cases slowing down the entire court system as much as they did in 2020? Now, I know you mentioned one judge has shut his court down, but do you think this is going to be a trend? Is it looking like that or too early to tell?
BJ, what's your take on that?
Well, last I heard that the experts, Dr. Fauci and others, have kind of suggested that this influx of new cases may wane toward the end of September. If that's the case, then the courts won't be interrupted too much, I wouldn't think. But if he's wrong or the numbers change that opinion, then yeah, the courts are going to, in all likelihood, I think, they'll stay remote. Now, we're still doing hearings and things involved in the court, but we're just doing it via Zoom like we're doing this show. But
Okay.
we haven't been inside a courtroom in a long time.
Do you miss it, BJ?
I do.
Do you miss
I
it?
do.
Well, hold on. It won't be long before you return. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. Tonight, we're talking about Ask Us Anything. I'm Morgan Dukes, and with me tonight, Carl Reynolds and BJ Savant from Reynolds Horner Savant. And they have the answers to your questions. We have some email questions and a whole lot more coming up next. So don't you go anywhere. This is Law Call.
You're watching Law Call on 13 WMAZ with personal injury attorney Carl Reynolds, who has recovered more than $500 million for his clients, dedicated to helping injured Georgians for more than 50 years. Plus, support from his Macon law firm of Reynolds, Horn, and Servant, including attorney Wendell Horn, focused on protecting the rights of car and truck wreck victims across the state, and attorney BJ Servant, aggressively representing those injured by medical malpractice. Hosted by award-winning broadcaster Morgan Dukes, featuring guests from across Middle Georgia. Your rights, your calls, live. This is Law Call on 13 WMAZ.
And welcome back to Law Call. I'm Morgan Dukes, and tonight we're discussing anything. Ask Us Anything. That's our topic. Carl Reynolds and BJ Savant are here with us tonight and doing a great job, just sharing some good knowledge and sharing some information about their cases, as well as answering email questions. Now, BJ, I want to ask you, what is something you've been working on in the midst of this new environment that we're in?
Well, we're busy as we always are. Just in terms of general stuff, car wreck cases, a lot of those, and medical malpractice cases, primarily what I do a lot of. But we've had calls that have and cases that have kind of reminded us of the importance of uninsured motorist coverage that seem to be coming in quite frequently. We had a call from a lady in the last day or two situation where she was injured in a wreck, a head-on collision by a driver who had drugs in his system. And as you would expect, he didn't have much insurance, but fortunately she had a decent amount of uninsured motorist coverage, which we always stress on this show as being something you get to protect yourself. I have another case where a gentleman was pinned at an ATM by a lady at a bank when she hit the gas instead of the brakes, broke his leg real bad. She had $100,000 on her car and liability coverage, and he didn't have any uninsured motorist coverage. Again, stressing the importance of getting it. So that issue's come up more and more as we continue to handle these cases. People don't have enough uninsured motorist coverage. Yeah,
I mean, these cases come in all shapes and sizes. You never know what's coming in. The one that BJ just referenced was just a very nice lady. She's older, not as old as me, but she's older. And she was rear-ended and had, I think, 3 fractures and a really bad burn to her hand that required her to go to the burn center in Augusta. And the ne'er-do-well who struck her was under the influence of drugs. So factually, it's a great case. But you can't get blood out of a turnip. You can't get water out of a rock. And he had the bare minimum insurance in Georgia, which is $25,000 on liability. Well, thankfully, she had $300,000 uninsured motorist insurance. So she does have that to claim against. And most people don't understand that your uninsured motorist insurance is a contractual matter between you and your insurance company. But what it does is, in that case, for instance, her $300,000 of uninsured motorist insurance applies to the at-fault driver. And she then, in fact, is in an adversarial position to her own insurance company. They have to pay what she would otherwise be entitled to recover from that at-fault driver. And it doesn't go against her insurance. It doesn't cause her rates to go up at all. It's something that she has acquired by contract with the insurance company. So we always tell everybody, go look at your insurance policy, see what your uninsured motorist insurance is. Had a case on the other side not too long ago. Left turning vehicle caused a bad wreck and a bad injury. And the gentleman in the wreck who was driving the car, our client, he had a $300,000 liability policy with a $1 million umbrella over that, and only $25,000 in uninsured motorist insurance, which is insane. I mean, that should be a professional malpractice action against his insurer or his insurance agent, but that won't lie. But anyway, everybody go check your uninsured motorist insurance on your car and see what you got. We always stress.
And you want to get as much as you can. The law limits you to get no more uninsured motorist coverage than you get liability coverage. The thought being that you buy liability coverage to protect others, and uninsured motorist coverage is to protect you. And then you also need to make sure you get the right kind of uninsured motorist coverage, which is add-on or excess coverage, which means it would just add on to whatever liability coverage was there as opposed to being deducted from that. So you want as much as you can get, and you want add-on or excess uninsured motorist coverage.
Well, thank you for reminding us of that, because that's important. I got to go check mine again to make sure I'm right on the right track. Got to do that. All right, let's get an email question now. And this one comes to us from Nate. And his question is definitely a timely question. His question is about vaccines. Is it legal for a venue to require proof of vaccine in order to attend a concert if you've already purchased the tickets? That's a fair question.
It's a fair question, and I don't know.
I don't think anybody knows yet.
I don't know the answer to that question. I think, the purchase of a ticket for a concert puts a little twist on it. But I think a restaurant or a private business can say they're not going to let you come in and do business unless you either wear a mask or you have proof of vaccination. I think it's perfectly.
A couple of the large concert companies I know have now adopted a vaccinated only policy. You're not going to be able to get in unless you've been vaccinated. But on the situation with this question where the ticket's already been bought, there may be some wiggle room with that. I think a refund would be in order, if nothing else.
That's a good
point. Might add something else on the vaccines. They were talking about the booster on the national news today, that it would be available at, I think they said by September the 20th. And the fact of the matter is, I know a friend of mine who just went to CVS and got the booster. I mean, he falls within that group of people who are immunocompromised. But I think if you're immunocompromised or if you're an older person, you can get the booster now. They recommend that you get the same thing that you started with. For instance, if you had Pfizer, you get a Pfizer booster. If you had Moderna, you get a Moderna booster. But they also say that you can switch. If you had 2 vaccinations with Pfizer, you can get the Moderna booster. And that's something that seems like the national news people are behind on.
Okay. Okay. Well, regarding these vaccines or proof of vaccines, I think this is, well, do you foresee that this is going to be an interesting debate going on? Because I think people are going to start screaming about their rights and this, that, and the other. I can't eat at your restaurant. I can't go to certain places without having to show proof
Well,
everywhere I go.
their rights thus far are being protected. They have a right not to get the vaccine if they don't want it. I think that's silly, but some people feel strongly about it, usually without much basis. In fact, I had some information here. This was one of the most recent COVID counts in the medical center here, Navicent. They have 117 people hospitalized. Of those, 109 are unvaccinated. There were 28 people in the ICU. 27 were unvaccinated. There were 18 on ventilators. 17 were unvaccinated. And the one that was vaccinated was 90 years old. Now, what more do you need to know than that to go get a vaccination?
Well, there you go. Listen, I tell you, there you go. So it's just a matter of making sure you show proof of that, having that document with you wherever you go is what it's shaping up to be, it seems, because everybody wants you to show proof that you have been vaccinated. So there you go. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with more questions and more information on how you can get in contact with Carl Reynolds and BJ Savant of Reynolds Horner Savant. I'm Morgan Dukes, and you're watching LawCall. If you'd like to have further discussion about your case, you can contact Carl Reynolds or BJ Savant right here in Macon at Reynolds Horner Savant. Their phone number is 478-405-0300. You can also find them on the web at www.reynoldsinjurylaw.com. And don't forget to follow Reynolds Horner Savant on Facebook. You'll see a lot of great information there too. Gentlemen, welcome back. We're talking about Ask Us Anything tonight. And we've been talking about a lot of stuff from COVID to vaccines to what's next. So I do have a question here from Frank, and he has a question regarding masks. Let's talk about it. His question is, our governor left it up to schools to decide whether or not students should wear masks. But I'd like to hear your take on what's happening in some other states where the governor banned mask mandates and local school systems are defying those rules and taking them to court. Can they actually win those cases, or is it just for show? All right, who wants to tackle Frank's question first? I'd love to hear from both of you.
I'll start off. You know what they say, Morgan, this is just above my pay grade, so I'm going to hand it over to BJ to deal with that.
Okay.
Well, in my answer, this reeks of politics, which is outside of my bailiwick as well. That's how I see the mask issue personally. It's political. I think I don't see what downside of wearing masks is. I think it's helpful to everybody for everybody to wear masks. Yeah. But what you see is one party of the government. If the governor's of a one party, they're going to ban mask mandates, and if they're of the other party, they're not going to. So somebody's wrong as far as the science is concerned.
Yeah, but really, it doesn't matter because, for instance, this morning I think in Miami, there was the school board had a public meeting, and it's chaotic, and the anti-maskers were yelling and screaming. The maskers were yelling and screaming. I don't know what the end result was, but that Board of Education had decided they were going to require the mask, which went against Governor DeSantis's mandate, that they not have a mandate. So it's a moving target. I don't know where it's going to go.
I don't think the only court case that I'm aware of is in Texas. I think Governor Abbott's ban on mask mandates was upheld as of now. But then again, in the karma department, he got COVID. So I don't know how it's going to work out for him.
Yeah, and then the federal government came out, at least by the White House did, and said, okay, if I think there was a threat by the Florida governor that they were going to withhold pay for the teachers or for the administrators. And the White House said, well, if they did that, they would pay those people. So it's just up in the
It's a
air.
mess. Yeah.
No
It is a
solution in sight, I don't see.
Okay, because everybody seems like they're jockeying for their way or their opinion and not really focusing on what they should be, which is the health and safety of those who are wearing the mask. That's why we mask up, for everybody's health and everybody's benefit. So that's interesting.
And speaking of rights, I would think that anybody would have a right to know from anybody they're dealing with whether or not they've been vaccinated. And again, just as in our little office setting right here, we make it pretty simple. If you've been vaccinated, you don't have the restrictions you would ordinarily have. If you haven't been vaccinated, we still meet with clients, but we remain masked. That seems simple to me.
Mm-hmm. It does. That does seem simple. That way everybody's protected in the process.
Right.
Sounds good to me. All right, BJ, any last thoughts on the mask issue?
I wear my mask.
Just wear your mask. I like that. Just wear your mask.
Yeah, until this is over with, I'm going to be wearing mine most of the time.
Okay.
Well,
I agree.
With the resurgence of it, I mean, again, we're talking about going in a cycle. I got to a point after I'd had my second vaccination that I felt a little freer to go to this place or that place without it. But as we move again into this resurgence, I've started back wearing it in public or in grocery stores. And it seems that the majority of people in those places have also started back wearing their mask. So that's my personal choice.
Yes, it is. And that's important, though. I think wearing the mask is so very, very important for everybody. So I hope that people will continue to follow suit, because I'm like you. I noticed that more and more people are doing it as well, especially, when you come into a new facility or a new environment. Now, as people come in to see you, gentlemen, this is important too. What is your procedure now for, say, new clients, if you want to meet with them for the very first time, or someone's watching this broadcast and they say, you know what, I need to call Reynolds, Horne, and Savant and see if they will take my call or take my case. So how should they handle that?
We see any client who calls, and I always like to add too, I can't get through a show without taking a dig at the advertising lawyers. When somebody calls our office to come and see us, they will see a lawyer, not a case manager. And we see them personally. And if they have not been vaccinated, we still see them and we sit across the table from them with our mask on. If they have been vaccinated, we meet with them in the conference rooms and we don't require masks. So that's where we are. We still are open and seeing clients every day.
All right, then. Reynolds, Horne, and Savant is where you can find both Carl Reynolds and BJ Savant. Their phone number is 478-405-0300. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Until next time, I'm Morgan Dukes, and for all of us here at LawCall, good night, everybody.
Good night, Morgan.